Hezron Ligare is the Chief Manager of Tax Refunds at Kenya Revenue Authority. He's now joining us tonight. Thank you so very much, Hezron, for your time tonight.
Thanks.
Next to Hezron, we have David Kingo. He's an analyst at Cytonn Investment. Thank you very much, David, for your time. Let me first of all find out, according to the report, Kenya has done fairly well when it comes to making its tax payment processes online. What does this say about what KRA has done in the last 5 years?
Thank you. Basically what this says is that KRA has invested quite a lot in automation, and we are now kind of harvesting the results of those investments. Earlier on, it would be taking so much time for a taxpayer to file returns, and even by the time we are processing them, it's already too late. We cannot get the taxpayer to pay in time, and also information management was not proper. Right now with automation, you can file your return even without walking out of your office, and pay also without visiting the bank if you so need. So that environment has made tax administration a lot easier, because people now feel that why should I not be part of the good story in the country?
Definitely. I mean, it's a plus on Kenya Revenue Authority side, but we definitely know that not all processes of payment of taxes are online or are automated. We still have a lot of manual work that has to be done. But we'll be coming back to find out what exactly is KRA doing to ensure we have an end-to-end automation of tax administration in this country. I want to find out from Kingo, I don't know to what extent you have interacted with other systems around the world, but I wanted to give you a very good example of the payment of taxes, in the United States. It was the first country to automate its tax administration system back in 1986. So we're talking about 33 years ago. When you look at what KRA is doing, what conclusions do you make?
So the conclusion that with digitization of tax payment system, so those people appreciate automation and those people are educated to that extent. But the largest section of the population that does not appreciate technology is not educated, is still out there, not aware of the payment processes and the obligation, the ease of automation in tax payment. Yes.
And the question is, how do you bring everybody on board? Because automation is the future.
So definitely it requires a lot of sensitization and a lot of doing of groundwork in terms of the payment system, the payment processes, and ease of payment systems to the ground, to the people who are taxpayers, but they're not doing it just because they don't want to pay, but because they don't understand the process. They don't know whether it's automated. They don't know whether they can do it at the ease of their comfort. Yes. So sensitization of the same to the public is important. Yes.
What percentage of your processes is automated?
90%.
90%.
In fact, I would say more than 90%, 99%.
99%.
99%.
And he's trying to bring in a very interesting perspective here.
Sure.
We definitely know that not all taxpayers are conversant with digitization or digital matters. So what are you doing to ensure that no one is left behind or no one is punished for mistakes apparently that is not theirs?
Apart from the investment in technology, we are putting a lot of focus on outreach to taxpayers. The reason I'm here is part of that taxpayers get to know. That taxpayers get to know what goes on in KRA and how they can be part of the processes in KRA and help us improve those processes. You'll appreciate that in Kenya, a lot of business is going on in the informal sector. So the investment we are making now is more in taxpayer education, particularly small taxpayers. And we are opening offices even in very, very small locations, just to have service taken down to what one may want to call grassroots. We want everybody to be on board. It's appreciated that high-end automation is a challenge to most taxpayers. But we realize that KRA has facilities like even mobile payment systems, where you would just go to 572 and pay your tax, however small the amount is, if you want to pay.
When you look at the ease of doing business reports, for the year 2020, the World Bank is also issuing a very harsh verdict on Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as Sub-Saharan Africa. And this is what the report says. The regions with the most cumbersome tax compliance processes remain Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as Sub-Saharan Africa. The question is, because Kenya is part of the Sub-Saharan Africa family, what do we need to do to reduce red tape in tax compliance processes?
Oh, definitely, as I said before, tax payment is not a punishment, and tax payment is an obligation to everybody. So ease of the compliance of tax system is to make sure we have a canon of ease in terms of tax payment. And that can only be brought about when we have clear processes that are set on the ground, and it is easy for everyone to pay. Then education on what type of tax should someone pay, and the process to that. So we'd have people doing business, and they told you need to pay VATs. These people don't have an ETR machines. So and you tell someone about a businessman or an ETR machine, definitely they even don't know. So it's about difficult about education, and so as my friend has said, and educating everybody and putting tax payment, tax processes to the grassroots. That one would definitely remove all the bottlenecks in place. The process is good, but the ease of payment, education of payment, technology in terms of payment, making people understand is where the challenge is.
Tell me this. I mean, in a country of about 50 million people, we are still waiting for the official figures from the statistics agency. Is it a fair picture to when about 2.5 million people are paying taxes?
Not at all, not at all. It means that less than 10% of the population is paying taxes, and making an assumption that the tax-paying population is around, let's say, for example, 40%. Then out of that, we have 2% are doing it. So we have majority of the tax, majority of the revenue out there not being at the government. And basically that translates to the challenge that we're having in terms of raising our revenue for funding our expenditures, definitely. Yes.
Hezron, help us understand this. I mean, the majority of Kenyans, they are not yet in the tax bracket. We definitely have people who would not want to be there in that bracket. And we also have people who are willing to be there, but they are not there for various circumstances. So how do you ensure those who want to be there are placed in that bracket, and those who do not want to be there, but they should be there, are also put in that bracket?
You'll realize a clarion call for this year and the next corporate plan period is facilitation of taxpayers. But we'll also appreciate that facilitation has to go with elements of mitigating areas that may require enforcement. So we have facilitation for those who want to be facilitated. But if you are the type that will understand the language of enforcement, then that is what KRA would go for. And you will appreciate in the recent past, there has been what the public is perceiving as aggressive approach by KRA. But the question is, as you had started pointing it out, should we have a few people having their livelihoods threatened just because of the actions of people who should be paying tax but are not paying? So as it is, we facilitate people. That should be our foundation in doing business. Day to day, we are going to office knowing that we are going to facilitate people. We have restructured our operations, and now we have what we call account management, in that you as a taxpayer, you come to offices, you just tell us what your PIN is, and we'll direct you go to so and so to assist you. That should make it quite welcoming for taxpayers to know that there is somebody to listen to me when I'm in need.
Hezron, we definitely, I mean, Kenya Revenue Authority, we definitely know has come a long way, in trying to make, tax administration, much more friendlier. But we still have some black dots. For example, why would you be having tax refund arrears, that dates back to more than 3 years? And what are you doing with this money, honestly?
Thank you. A tax refund, maybe where we should have started is by pointing out that Kenya operates self-assessment regime of taxation. In self-assessment regime, taxpayers are allowed to file their returns and pay taxes at the due dates. Now, what we have seen happening in Kenya is that you, as the employee, perhaps you want a refund. You come to KRA for your refund, but your employer who deducted the payee did not remit it to KRA. As you pointed out, the story of hen and egg, which one came first? When it comes to taxation, that story is not there. It's clear that tax has to be paid for refund to be well facilitated.
Tell me this. When you look at, the World Bank is doing based on this report, it says that when it comes to the average time it takes to file your tax obligations, for low-income countries where Kenya is classified, you take about 275 hours. So we're talking about more than 10 days, actually. This compares differently from high-income countries, whereby it will take you about 149 hours. The question is, how do we, first of all, make this process friendly and expedite the process, David?
I just mentioned like a real experience that we face as taxpayers. So, for example, when you want to file a amended return, so if someone who is employed in a certain industry here in Nairobi and they don't understand about Excel IT and feeding data into an Excel sheet, so you want this person to file amended return. So that person will take even more than 10 days. The longer they take forever. So we need a lot of IT infrastructure definitely inside the tax paying process to make it easy. Should be a click of a button and you filed your amended return. Should be a click of a button and you filed your payee for the year. So it's still automated, but with some aspect of it that's quite mechanical. So we will ask KRA to enhance on the same and make sure it is simplified to the minimum number of buttons, the minimum number of data entry that someone can do, that it eases the payment processes. Then number two, also something that the government, the Kenya Revenue Authority should look at is that as you say that we have a code for tax payment. So even other modalities of tax payment that are in Excel format, or maybe they are quite tedious for someone who is not conversant with IT to submit. They should have the same on every tax payment item that we have. So definitely it's about the ease of payment and making sure that when KRA understands that not every taxpayer is educated, then tax payment will be easy. Yes.
Hezron, how much tax arrears or refunds are you holding?
Refund as of 30th September this year, we are having around, in VAT, we are having around 6,000 cases with a value of 26 billion.
26 billion shillings sitting in your account.
Yes.
How does this
now
make you
the
feel?
challenge is, why is this with us? You will appreciate, as I pointed out earlier, that taxation in Kenya is self-assessment regime, where people who come for refunds are a section of the tax-paying population. If we go to VAT, for example, we would be asking, what is the eligibility for VAT? Who is eligible for VAT refund? The answer is the person who is exporting or producing zero-rated items which are in the category of pharmaceutical products. So you'll find most probably this person who is coming to claim refund by virtue of export, first we'll need to verify if export took place or not. We've had a lot of diversions in the local market. Secondly, this person is claiming tax which he paid to a supplier, the person who supplied him with raw materials and other items for making the export produce. the person who charged him tax has not paid. Then you will also note that in the recent past, you must have seen a lot of audit work going on at KRA. We are accountable to other institutions who will be asking us, did you verify this export? Did you confirm that the export took place? Did you confirm that this person did not have a debt before you refunded him? So what we've seen is that we've got a lot of processes which are in refund but should be taken out of refund. So the business process engineering we are looking at in the near future is that for us to allow you to lodge a refund, you must have cleared all these other issues elsewhere, so that when you lodge a refund, we are dealing with the refund, and we can even take a commitment that we want to pay this refund within 90 days. Take, for example, a pilot who wants to fly, and he is still the same person who is to come in and check that the passenger has paid fare, the passenger's baggage is secure. That should be done by somebody else, so that when the pilot comes in, his duties taking off.
Tell me please, how many days does it take me, to file my returns?
Filing returns should not take days because it's automated.
It should take hours.
It should, in fact, not even hours. Filing a return should take minutes.
Then why is it that getting my refund has to take months, if not years?
In fact, getting refund takes long because of the issues I've just highlighted.
How can you shorten the process?
That is where we are looking at business process engineering and say, what are some of the processes which are tied in refund but should be done outside? For example, if you are an employee and you are lodging a refund which is based on mortgage facility, you will have computed your tax based on the information that you have. But when we go to our system, we realize that you are employer, and it's becoming very common with a lot of employers, institutions, who deduct tax but do not pay. You are not aware that your tax was not paid, and you are coming for a refund. For us to do that reconciliation, it means we are keeping you on queue, and you are holding queue for the people who have no issues. So if we would make all of you not having issues, it means we can make a very good commitment that you lodge a refund, we verify your information, it's accurate, we pay the tax.
Tell me things. I mean, you have three people here. Number one, you have the person paying taxes.
Sure.
And number two, you have the institution, for example, for somebody who pays pay as you earn.
Yes.
You have the institution that is remitting the taxes on your behalf. And then you have Kenya Revenue Authority.
Yes.
If, for example, my employer deducts my taxes from me, the pay as you earn, whether they remit or they do not, what is my role and responsibility in that whole matrix?
Well, for you, you have no issue at all.
So if I
the
have,
only problem
if
is
I
that
have, if I have a claim of refund from KRA, who should I go to?
what will happen is, the analogy you've given is that you have your employer who remitted but did not pay.
Yes.
It means when you file a return, you are creating a liability which is not meeting the payment that ought to have been made by your employer. And this is where the external bodies come in. When we paid you, were you having a debt or not? When you filed and your employer did not remit, it means your Ligare is having a liability. That slows down the process of refund payment.
David, when you interact with the whole system of paying, of filing your returns and getting your refund if you qualify for any, you definitely realize that when it's come to claiming your refunds, I mean, you have to do a lot of paperwork, you have to do a lot of legwork because you have to travel all the way to domestic, is it called DDT or domestic tax offices all the way in Harlingham, in Upper Hill. How do we make these cumbersome procedure, less cumbersome and more friendly? For example, it takes you less than 24 hours, for you to claim or to lodge a refund claim with IRA, which is Internal Revenue Services of the US. And by the time you get your refund back, it's an automatic process. How can we improve our system to match the years?
So I just want to mention a simple thing about this tax issue where your pay is not remitted on such, so you maybe have some tax refunds. So the moment you submit your returns, your pay returns, and there is a difference that would warrant a refund, the system doesn't automatically notify you. So maybe we've keyed our phone numbers in the system, and I would say, David, this taxpayer, you've submitted this and you have a refund of this, or you've such a difference. So you might only notice when you may be asking for your tax compliance certificate, which you might ask after a month. So that your tax compliance certificate cannot be submitted because of A, B, and C, and D. So in that point, you go into your ledgers and confirm. So definitely not anyone who understands what the ledger in the tax system and understand where the difference is coming in. So it's a simple thing. So maybe, for example, when you click your pay, then it has your phone number inside, and when you have a difference, it notifies you that you submitted your return, then you have a difference on these, and kindly conduct such and such. It doesn't happen. So definitely, as I said, it's about automation process, making it user friendly and making it complete to the user to make sure it is tied to the end.
Mm-hmm. So amazing. Well, it may appear like it's a very complicated system and procedures, that have to be put in place. But let's, for example, take a look at the telecom industry. I mean, we have one player who has more than 30 million subscribers, who are always making phone calls, sending text messages, using data, buying airtime, redeeming points and loyalties and all these. Yet, they have managed to do things in a very seamless way. What lessons do you think KRA could learn from such companies, who have efficiently, managed to deploy technology, to do a lot of the work that should have been handled by human beings?
Definitely, the authority should realize about the apparent parcel of the tax payment process. And they're not an end to the process. They'll sit and wait for the revenue. But they should understand that they should be part and the biggest contributor of the tax payment process. So that when you're submitting your tax, they're there. When they're educating about tax payment, they're there. So because you just give an example of the telecom industry, which are the parent parcel of you making calls, they collect revenue maybe for the authority and submit the same. So the authority is not understanding that paying taxes or the process of paying taxes is where the issue is. So when we sit with the taxpayer, definitely we would collect much and we would make it easy. So when you educate the taxpayer on tax payment, it's all about tax payment. So it will make it easy and we would collect more. So and then we would have a bigger population of our citizens paying taxes. Yes.
Hezron, as we wind it up, give us some hopes for the future.
There are great hopes. There are great hopes. The process has been slow, and I would give you another challenge which I did not mention, in that just some small statistics for September alone, we processed claims worth 350 million, and we disallowed 280, and nobody came complaining that you denied me.
350.
350. That is what was processed. That is what was lodged. We disallowed 280, and nobody came complaining that you denied me my refund. That is a very big red flag in the refund lodgement process by taxpayers, and that is where education now comes in. Provide accurate information backed with accurate data, and your refund will be perhaps on the spot in a few years to come. In fact, I would tell you that in the next 5 years, if iTax is embraced by everybody, because what he is talking about of payee should be remitted by your employer, and it goes to your iTax account immediately. When you file your return, the computation should be showing that you have an overpayment or underpayment. If you have underpayment which results in a refund, and we facilitate you to attach documents that prove that overpayment, why would we not pay you even in a week? Good. I'm told South Africa people file in the morning, and in the evening they get refunds.
You don't need to be told. I can confirm that.
The power of automation, the power of automation and cross-checking of information.
We'll hope that in the not so distant future,
not very long,
Kenya Revenue Authority will get us there. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time and for your insight. Always appreciated.
Thank you.
Hezron Ligare is the Chief Manager at Tax Refunds at Kenya Revenue Authority, while David Kingo is an analyst at Cytonn Investment, joining us here to discuss tax matters. You're watching Business Insight. A short break is well deserved, and thereafter we'll return with more. Stay right here.